Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and we have a lot to talk about today because ESPN writers and staffers, reporters, and all of those guys cannot get enough of talking about the Washington Commanders in this potentially very exciting offseason that we're about to have. First of all, we got to talk about Frankie Louvu saying that NFL starters already hitting them up and saying that they want to come to Washington. We're going to dive into that first. Then we're going to dive into all of the different things that the ESPN articles and writers and everybody's been saying about us signing T. Higgins. We're the most likely landing spot there. They're predicting us to draft Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Ugbuka as well. We have so many off-season predictions as far as like who will cut, who will re-sign, all kinds of stuff. We're going to dive into all of that and more. But before we do, first of all, I got this trivia question for you for February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. What player posted a team-leading 104 tackles for the Commanders in 2022? I'm going to give you the answer to that one at the end of the video. Also, this video is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And before we get into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. I promise y'all, when I'm less busy, y'all are going to literally be getting like 2-3 videos a day. Like I had that run a few days ago of like 2-3 videos a day. Really like last week. I'm going to get right back to that as soon as I'm less busy. I promise y'all. Keep y'all updated, everything Commanders, mock drafts, everything. Without further ado, let's go and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start with the Frankie Louvu thing. Per John Kahn, apparently, Commanders linebacker Frankie Louvu has said that he has heard from multiple players around the NFL that want to play in Washington. Already asking about the team, already letting them know that they're interested in pulling up to Washington and things like that. We are that team now. He said, quote, I got a few of them. That's the type of energy we're starting to get, unquote. Like, there are people already hitting them up. I believe he said that this in like his exit interview, like immediately after the season ended, after we lost the NFC Championship, and then he went and said it again. John Kahn is your source there. And you know John Kahn is one of those guys that he's not about being first. He's not about bringing a big headline. His whole thing is integrity, trustworthiness, being reliable, all of that type of stuff. If he says it, then it's true. And, you know, granted, now maybe Frankie Louvu, the true source of all of this, could just be making stuff up, but I highly doubt it, man. I firmly believe him. Again, especially since this is the second time that he said it. I'm worried about him getting to territory of, like, where they're going to start considering it tampering or something like that. But for now, man, I love to hear it. And I for sure, again, believe him. Because remember that Adam Schefter reported that several NFL starters wanted to be traded to the Washington Commanders before the trade deadline. And that was like during our 3-game losing streak. Like, that was before we went all the way to the NFC Championship, beating the Detroit Lions in Detroit and all of that. Like, players were like, please trade me to the Washington Commanders. That was coming from Adam Schefter himself. You don't get more inside than Adam Schefter. Adam Schefter is basically like our equivalent to Shams, and, you know, shouts out to Woj for retiring, like in the NBA wise. Adam Schefter is like the NFL equivalent almost, and he was saying that. And you remember DJ Reed clearly wanted to come to the Commanders before the trade deadline happened, but we ended up trading for Marshawn Lattimore. Now he's a free agent, unrestricted free agent, no ties to the Jets anymore. He could just come pull up, sign over here as a free agent, and end up where he wanted to end up. Then you even had past Commanders hater himself, Mike Florio, even saying that the Commanders will be one of the top free agency destinations in the entire NFL. Anytime that there's like a 50-50 where the money range is like anywhere near close. Like if the Commanders are offering this amount and another team is offering maybe a little bit more, but it's not a drastic enough difference, Mike Florio's predicting that we'll win a lot of those jump ball situations right there. Then you even had Charles Woodson, no attachment to the Commanders whatsoever, during Super Bowl week, saying that we will be the top free agency destination just because of Jaden Daniels alone. I mean, it's so many people saying this stuff. That's not even everybody, but those are just some of the main ones that have pointed out the fact that the Washington Commanders will be one of the teams to go to this offseason, arguably the team. I mean, There's so many people saying it. There's no way that it's not true. I mean, I already knew that we would be a top free agency destination. Honestly, in my opinion, number one, the top free agency destination out of the entire NFL, just by simply looking at our future outlook. You know, Super Bowl contention, elite quarterback on a rookie deal, and a fun one that everybody loves to hang around and be around, talk to, all of that type of stuff. Elite coaching staff and front office and even ownership, and the third most cap space in the NFL. But now, even people outside of the Commanders fan base, organization, reporters, even like guys like Charles Woodson, Mike Florio, these type of people are saying the same exact thing. Adam Schefter. So if you don't believe me, at least take their word for it. If you should know by now, we are one of the top free agency destinations, man. Now let's move on to the ESPN articles. And most of the things that we're going to talk about today came from one particular article where like all of these different ESPN writers and reporters did like breakdowns for every single NFL team. And you could argue that ours is the most exciting out of every NFL team. Well, first of all, the first section is biggest offseason priority, right? They said our 2024 record, 12-5. Final FPI ranking 11. Estimated 2025 cap space, $59.1 million. Again, like I told y'all a couple of videos ago, everywhere you look is going to be a different number. But all you need to remember is that we have the third most in the NFL. And what matters most is where you are ranked and relative to everybody else. The exact number doesn't exactly matter that much. It's really who has the most relative to other teams. Where do you rank? Are you third in cap space? That matters way more than what the exact amount of cap space we get. And again, we'll probably find out like somewhere February towards the 20s, like February. Last year was, I believe, February 26th, where we get the official cap space number for all NFL teams, and then we'll get like an exact number that everybody can agree upon. That's the cap space that the Commanders have going into the 2025 offseason. And also our 2025 first round draft pick is number 29. They pointed all of that out. Now the section is biggest offseason priority. There's several sections. We have under the radar offseason priority. We'll talk about that next. We're going to talk about latest on whether they'll re-sign safety Jeremy Chin. That's from Don Graziano. Draft outlook comes from Jordan Reed. Biggest prediction for the offseason, Benjamin Solak talks about that. Again, we're going to get to all of those, but for right now, we're talking about biggest offseason priority. They said to strengthen the defense. This can be accomplished in multiple ways, starting at corner. Washington traded for Marshawn Lattimore, but persistent hamstring injuries hindered his impact. The Commanders still need another outside corner with size, allowing them to move Mike Sanderstill back inside. They also must find a consistent pass rush threat from a starting defensive end. Finally, they have to fix a run defense to rank 30th in yards allowed and 28th in yards allowed per carry in the regular season. I completely agree with all of that. I feel like edge rushers number one, and I feel like that's going to play a large role in stopping the run, and then corner can come as a priority after that. But a dominant edge rusher, like at least sign a Khalil Mack, go and trade for a Myles Garrett, something like that. And there was even a report that I talked about a couple of days ago where the Commanders will reportedly do everything that they can to be very aggressive in making sure that the defense is far improved from the previous season, especially with the fact that Jaden Daniels is way better than anybody expected at this point. And basically they're predicting us to have a very similar offseason, if anything, even more aggressive than what the Texans did this time last year. After they saw CJ Stroud have his rookie season, then they were like, oh, we need Danielle Hunter, we need Joe Mixon, we need Stephon Diggs, we need to add all of these different players that we could possibly get for agency, trade, do whatever you got to do. They're predicting basically that we'll do the same thing, and if anything, we'll be even more aggressive as far as going to go get receiver, edge rusher, whatever. So don't be surprised if we go and get Myles Garrett in a trade. Like, that's a real thing. Literally, the only problem is whether the Browns will actually end up trading them. But if the Browns even have the slightest idea of leaning towards maybe we actually can trade them, maybe we are willing to trade them, the Commanders should be number one on the list of teams that he's more than likely to land with. And I even have another video discussing that because you have Bill Barnwell even saying the same thing. We'll get there later. But even moving on from this, the next section, of course, is under the radar offseason priority. And this is from John Kahn. He said re-sign veteran free agents. Linebacker Bobby Wagner and tight end Zach Ertz have made a big impact, but were on one-year deals. Do they want to retain running back Brian Robinson or seek a more dynamic running back? Will they look for a more consistent number 2 wideout? Those are all questions posed by John Keim. Those are all fair answers. I mean, if I had to guess right now, I mean, unless you're about to go get a Dre Greenlaw or something like that, maybe a Nick Bolton, I feel pretty confident that Bobby Wagner will end up coming back on another 1-year deal. I mean, Josh Harris had him at the press conference, like his end of the season press conference, when he announced that we're not going back to the old name. Be on the lookout for great jerseys. We have a new standard here. Like, Bobby Wagner was there for that. I think it was like Dan Quinn. Bobby Wagner was probably like the only player, and he's not even technically on contract. It seems like they view him as a franchise player. Zach Ertz, I mean, he played in all 20 games last season. I don't know how you don't bring him back at least on another 1-year deal. Now, that doesn't mean you're done at the tight end position. Same thing with linebacker. That doesn't mean you're done with the linebacker position after you re-sign Bobby Wagner. But I think those two are part of the solution. They're just not the solution. And then Brian Robinson, I mean, he's cool. I like him. But you definitely, Amarion Hampton is anywhere near in range of that 29th pick. I may even be willing to trade up a little bit to get that guy. How much we need a true dynamic running back. Amarion Hampton has 1,300 yards rushing alone a year written all over him, plus another 600-700 through the air. I mean, he has that. I mean, then he can pass protect too. So if you really care about Jaden Daniels the way that y'all do, and Amarion Hampton will probably step in and be immediately our best pass protecting running back, even better than Austin Eckler, I just don't see how anybody would disagree with doing whatever we got to do to get that guy. And then the next section was the latest on whether they'll re-sign safety Jeremy Chinn. This one was Don Graziano. He said Chinn took a 1-year, $4.1 million prove-it deal with Washington and has turned into one of the best players on that defense with 117 tackles. We'll get there soon. Of the veterans that the Commanders added to the roster on 1-year deals last season, he feels among the most likely to stick around long-term. Again, that's coming from Dan Graziano himself as a source. And that's really interesting. Now, I do want to point out the fact that when you're looking at the leading tacklers from last season for us on our defense, Bobby Wagner was number 1 at 132. I think you bring that back. It's hard to replace that. Same thing with Jeremy Chinn. He's second with that 117. Then you have Frankie Louvu, who's a fairly distant third with 99, and everybody else is starting to get closer and closer together as you go down the list. But you have Bobby Wagner 132, Jeremy Chinn 117, and Frankie Louvu at 99. Just to remind y'all, those top 2 leading tacklers for our team last year are both unrestricted free agents right now. I believe you bring back Bobby Wagner for a relatively cheap 1-year deal again. This will probably be his last year with us this upcoming season, more than likely. And then Jeremy Chinn, I think you re-sign to maybe even a 2 or 3-year deal that isn't crazy expensive, but something worth his while that'll make him want to stick around, especially on a contending team like this. But I'm gonna let you know this right now. If we don't end up re-signing Jeremy Chinn, you can already book it. Go ahead and put your life savings on us going and getting Talanoa Hufanga from the 49ers. I mean, I feel that confident in it, man. There's already reports that they plan on letting him walk in free agency. And Adam Peters played the largest role out of the entire 49ers organization in drafting him to the 49ers in the first place. So that reunion just makes too much sense. Honestly, I feel like we're less likely to re-sign Jeremy Chinn just because of the fact that Talanoa is potentially available. I think Adam Peters wants him really bad. You could argue that Talanoa at his best is better than Jeremy Chinn at his best. Now, I'm just a loyal guy. I like Jeremy Chinn a lot. I wanted to draft Jeremy Chinn coming out of that same 2020 draft that Chase Young came out of. Remember, he was the runner-up to Defensive Rookie of the Year, only behind Chase Young that year in the elite athleticism and talent. And I feel like another year under this defense, under the same exact defense and only getting better at it and learning how to be best in Joey Jr.'s scheme and everything like that, I think Jeremy Chinn will only get better. But Talanoa Hufanga, man, I'm great with either one, me personally. And now, I'm not dead serious about putting your life savings on any bet that you can find, but I'm telling y'all right now, I have the utmost confidence. We don't bring back Jeremy Chinn. Not only do I believe we will end up signing Talanoa Hufanga in free agency, I believe we don't re-sign Jeremy Chinn because we plan on getting Talanoa Hufanga. But we'll see, though. Now, the next part of the article, you have Draft Outlook. This one's handled by Jordan Reed of ESPN. He used to be with the Draft Network. I love his draft analysis. I've been following him since he was with the Draft Network and everything. Now he's with ESPN. Draft Outlook. The Commanders took care of one need by acquiring Lattimore, so they should address edge rusher and receiver early in the 2025 draft. Getting rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels more top targets to throw to is important, and Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Ugbuka is someone they should consider. He's an NFL-ready player who's an ideal complement to Terry McLaurin, another Ohio State receiver, might I add. And I ain't gonna lie, even as a Georgia Bulldog fan, I gotta admit, Ohio State receivers, different. LSU receivers, different too. But it's like the Ohio State receivers come out with elite technique and like nuance. I feel like LSU receivers come out like the most athletically gifted, unstoppable, just natural born, God-given ability. I feel like Ohio State has a lot of that too, especially with Jeremiah Smith. Like I said, I think he's the best high school receiver I've seen since Julio Jones. And I've been trying to tell y'all about Jeremiah Smith for a couple of years now, even before what he did with Ohio State. But either way, I feel like Ohio State receivers, they come in day one ready to like contribute immediately. LSU receivers have shown that, especially as well. Both of those two colleges are wide receiver U right now, and I don't even feel like there's a close third place, to be honest with you, even though Georgia's trying, you know what I'm saying? We're trying to get there. We've been terrible, but now, you know, going into the 2025 season, I think we'll be way better, and then maybe we can have this discussion again in like 4 or 5 years for Georgia, but for right now, Ohio State and LSU got it. But the most important part is that Ohio State, I mean, they just... every time it's like they're physically gifted, but you can also tell they're probably the best coach receivers coming out in the drafts consistently every year, man. And then shouts out to them for even giving their wide receivers coach a promotion to make sure he stays around, because he's the best wide receiver coach in the entire country right now. So shouts out to Ohio State for retaining that guy. I was sick about that. I saw that notification a couple of days ago. But either way, Emeka Ugbuka is just the next one in line. I mean, you have Chris Olave when he can stay healthy, Garrett Wilson, who I want to trade for, Terry McLaurin himself. I mean, you saw how impactful Curtis Samuel was for us. I mean, it's just so many. We would be here all day basically for these guys. And Emeka Ugbuka is the next guy in line. I mean, look at Jackson Smith and Jigba. He took over DK Metcalf. With DK Metcalf fully healthy, mind you, he took over as wide receiver 1 for the Seahawks. This is just the effect that Ohio State receivers have on teams. And I'm telling you, Emeka Ugbuka, watch out for him, man. Now, I'm not going to lie. I do plan on doing an entire video on Emeka Ugbuka separately outside of this one, because it's going to require like 20-30 minutes on its own. Like, I have a big time Emeka Ugbuka video coming, so I'm going to look out for that. But even Phil Yates agrees. He just did his most recent mock draft just a couple of days ago, and with the 29th pick, he has the Washington Commanders drafting Emeka Ugbuka out of Ohio State. He said, as the Commanders look to surround Jaden Daniels with more playmakers, they could tap back into the Ohio State receiver pipeline to pair Terry McLaurin with Ugbuka, who leaves Columbus with the most catches in school history with 205. Out of all of these elite receivers that Ohio State has produced over the years, Emeka Ugbuka has the most catches in school history. Ugbuka is among the most NFL-ready prospects in this class, I agree, as he features pristine route running, reliable hands, and selflessness as a blocker that the Commanders would undoubtedly love. He caught 10 touchdowns for the Buckeyes this season. I mean, just real quick, and again, I'm going to do a super dive into Emeka Ugbuka, but my main thing with him is that the only reason he's not being talked about as a top 10 pick is because he's not 6'4" or 5, and he also doesn't, and not to make up for that, he also doesn't have like elite 4.3 something, low 4.4 something speed. But anything else you could ask for a receiver: contested catches, most importantly, like Phil Yates kind of alluded to, spoke about briefly, his blocking on the outside. Cliff Kingsbury loves blocking on the outside. So much so that that's literally the reason we traded Jahan Dotson to the Eagles, because he can't block. And we made sure that's why De'Ami Brown and a lot of these guys got more playing time than you probably even expected, even before De'Ami Brown started to, go crazy in the playoffs, because he could block on the outside. And that's big time, because our main part of our offense is our run game. Like, we want to run the ball really well. You need receivers that can block. And Emeka Ugbuka can do that very well as well, which is another reason why I feel like Amarion Hampton at running back, with his pass protection ability, hey, same thing. We love guys that aren't necessarily blockers by title, like an offensive lineman, but can also still block very well. Especially when we do these tunnel screens, a tunnel screen in De'Ami Brown, if we re-sign him, you have Emeka Ugbuka blocking and Terry McLaurin blocking and just completely hemming up the corners. And then De'Ami Brown just have free space to the next level and maximize his yardage. So, I mean, again, route running. If you're an Ohio State receiver, you're coming out with ridiculous route running already. I mean, this guy is the most literally week 1 of the regular season gonna go out there and get you at least 80 yards, like probably in this draft. You know, there's other guys with higher ceilings. I love Luther Burden. I love the McMillan kid from Arizona and all of that type of stuff. But Emeka Ugbuka is like, we can play a game tomorrow. He'll be able to get you 80 yards. So I can see the vision there for sure. And again, I feel like the only reason he's gonna make it that far down is because people are gonna overlook his athletic measurements and testing and all of that type of stuff. Please overlook that. Please let him fall to 29. I beg y'all. Also, shouts out to @JDanielsMVP because he brings up a good point. Wouldn't mind this pick at all, but then again, it really depends on what we do in free agency. Something is telling me that we're trading or signing a wide receiver 2 very soon. George Carmi agreed as well. He said, yep, it seems like the value is adding a wide receiver in the free agent class or trade because there's plenty of options, and the wide receiver draft class is a little top heavy. This is not those same typical receiver draft class that we've had like the past few years in a row. We're like, okay, you can maybe wait till the 2nd and 3rd round to get a really good guy because there's so many good ones available in the draft. This is not that draft. You get them in the 1st round, maybe early 2nd, maybe we can start to get into the late 2nd. After that, you're probably done. So you need to go, especially with all of the wide receiver options in free agency or guys that are willing to be traded for, maybe like a Garrett Wilson, to just name a few, you know, Devontae Adams, potentially Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf. So many guys out there that are like, I want to go from where I'm currently at right now. So this is just the perfect alignment of factors to where going definitely gets you guy in free agency, but you may also want to double back and get a guy in the draft as well. George Carmi also finished up by saying, I think Emeka is tier 1. After him, I may look for a different position there at 29. I agree. Like after Emeka, Luther Burden, and McMillan, and maybe a couple other guys are gone, I'm not even looking at receiver. Honestly, Emeka Ugbuka is probably as far as I will go. Now, before we move on to Higgins. Of course, this show is provided by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino, and if you're looking for a new sportsbook, it should be BetUS for sure. First of all, they have the fastest payouts in the industry, and I know y'all want y'all money fast, and right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YOUTUBE150, and they have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process as well, so it's really like, why not? Now let's take a look at some of the bets that we can get into directly through their website, and y'all are gonna appreciate this one. Well, speaking of T. Higgins, who we're definitely about to talk about in just a few minutes, stay tuned for that. Right now, as you're seeing on the screen right now, when it looks, according to BetUS, the odds are for T. Higgins' next team, if not the Bengals, the Commanders are 2nd in odds right now at plus 500. Okay, I'm liking the sound of that. You know what I'm saying? The only team in front of us are the Denver Broncos, but hey, man, T. Higgins, you want to play with Bo Nix, a.k.a. Mo Picks, or you want to play with the chosen one in Jaden Daniels? Come on, man. Like, it's got it. Come on. And we have more cap space, too. Come on, man. Like, come on, dog. And so, the Commanders at plus 500 odds, the 2nd in terms of odds, only behind the Denver Broncos, to get T. Higgins if he does end up leaving the Bengals. If you were to put $10 on this bet, you could end up winning $50 if we end up with T. Higgins. So you'll be happy about the fact that we got T. Higgins, and you would have won $50 as well. So, hey, man, I think, I'm not gonna lie, I like the sound of that. I think there is a great chance that we will get him. Again, I feel strongly that we're at least gonna go get somebody. We're not going into the draft without a certified running mate to Terry McLaurin. I would be shocked. We're gonna either go get at least, at minimum, a Deebo Samuel or Cooper Kupp. On top of them, also going maybe trade for like a Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf. I think Deebo Samuel and Cooper Kupp will be a part of like a combination of receivers that we go get or something like that. Or if you only end up with Deebo Samuel or Cooper Kupp, I'm pretty sure you're going wide receiver in the 1st round because they're not enough to depend on to be your true automatic, we know for sure, wide receiver 2 this upcoming season. We're trying to win now. We don't have time for experiments, maybes. We'll see if he can get back to his... No, we don't have time for that. So Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel are cool. I welcome them, but that doesn't mean you're done with the wide receiver position. So you can go and get one of those guys and still potentially go and try to do whatever you got to do to go get a T. Higgins. And so again, you put down 10, you can end up winning 50 if that ends up happening. And again, right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YOUTUBE150. And of course, I'm always going to scream at y'all to please make sure you gamble responsibly. If you don't do nothing else, please do that. Now let's talk about T. Higgins for real. Well, continuing with the same exact ESPN article, they have big prediction for the offseason. This is Benjamin Solak. He said, rightfully in win-now mode, with Daniels' rookie contract ticking away, the Commanders will outspend everyone in the T. Higgins sweepstakes and bring him to Washington. This is his prediction, that we're going to do whatever it takes to land T. Higgins in free agency, and that's if the Bengals don't franchise tag him. Higgins can win in the Cliff Kingsbury offense in a DeAndre Hopkins-like role and pairs perfectly with Daniels' downfield tendencies. It'll cost, $33 million per year to get him in the building, though. Woo, $33 million a year. That's a lot. But I love the fact that Benjamin Solak pointed out the fact that, like, if you want an example of how T. Higgins could be maximized in this offense, look no further than when DeAndre Hopkins and Cliff Kingsbury were together in Arizona. It would literally be just like that. If you want a perfect example, you want to go watch some highlights of, okay, this is what T. Higgins could be with Cliff Kingsbury as your offensive coordinator, go back and look at DeAndre Hopkins when he was balling with the Arizona Cardinals. I love the fact that he brought that up, and I feel like that is a good comp, not even just particularly like as a player specifically, but also like a play style and how Cliff Kingsbury will utilize that guy in the offense. I think that's perfect. And again, I would love to get T. Higgins, but $33 million a year for a guy that's probably going to play 12, 13 games a season for you does scare me. I'm not going to lie. And you never know. Maybe he's willing to take a little bit less to play with us than a team like the Patriots or maybe the Broncos. But even if he didn't, if Adam Peters feels like it's the right move, then y'all know me, man. In Adam Peters, I trust fully. In just when in doubt, Adam Peters, you got it, man. You always have the benefit of the doubt no matter what. And I'll just assume that it's the right move. Plus, with Zach Ertz going from injury prone to playing in all 20 games last season, if there is any organization that can turn T. Higgins into a durable receiver, even if it's even humanly possible, then it's us. Which is a very underrated part of this whole Super Bowl contention equation, because I feel like our physical health, recovery, and injury prevention staff must be elite. I mean, even the fact that Jonathan Allen returned to play after a week 6 torn pectoral injury to play in the playoffs and play well against the Detroit Lions specifically. That's also another thing that maybe outside free agents are even looking at and maybe even noticing that may make the Commanders an even more likable free agency destination, even beyond just Jaden Daniels, the winning and the culture and everything. That medical staff, that injury prevention staff, they know what to do. And I would love to be a part of a team that knows how to keep me on the field and healthy and feeling right, so I can go out there and do what I got to do. But of course, you also have T. Higgins going on Instagram and posting, priorities are rare, but options are everywhere. That sounds very cryptic, and it sounds like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Options are everywhere? Yeah, Bengals, y'all want to keep playing about this money situation? I'm about to go look elsewhere. And I think it's going to literally have to come down to the Bengals having to franchise tag them or just letting them walk. But I don't really see them getting like the contract, big time contract to T. Higgins that he wants right now. And then what's even crazier is that you notice that Jaden Daniels liked the post. I don't know if they're trying to say something, but keep an eye on that. Jaden Daniels apparently likes the idea of T. Higgins coming to Washington. And again, T. Higgins is already crying out to other teams basically that I don't even want to be here anymore. These guys are playing. And then shouts out to JP Finley, because he talked to a Bengals reporter, and that Bengals reporter talking about the situation in Cincinnati said, quote, Jamar Chase is already going to reset the market. T is ready to get what he deserves, and nobody knows what's going to happen with the Bengals just in general. So he said that he thinks that they should trade Hendrickson, and that would be a smart move. So he feels like the Bengals should really just blow it all up. Trade Hendrickson, let T. Higgins go get his money elsewhere, pay Jamar Chase, and then figure it out from there. So, hey, man, I've been working on a video behind the scenes. I haven't gotten it all the way together yet, but I have been working on a video where we go and get as many Bengals guys as possible. You know, that linebacker that just requested a trade, hey, bring him over too. You know what I'm saying? So we can go Bengal shopping in Cincinnati real quick this offseason, but we'll get to that in another video. But shouts out to the Bengals reporter for saying that, because that's coming from the Bengals side. This is not just a Washington Commanders fan like me or a reporter that's just, you know, doing best case scenario to the benefit of the Commanders. Like, ooh, what if we can go to the Bengals and get all that? No, this is a Bengals guy saying this. So be on the lookout for that. Also, you have some Jeremy Fowler predictions as well. Separately from this whole ESPN article with Dan Graziano, Benjamin Solak, Jordan Reed, John Com, another article on ESPN where it's Jeremy Fowler the whole way through, purely only talking about the Commanders. He said a lot of very interesting things. Maybe we'll discuss the rest of those in another video. But the main ones, 2 things. One, he says some around the league expect the Commanders to acquire a wide receiver 2 to complement Terry McLaurin in free agency. So again, where there's smoke, there has to be fire. All these different people, all of these different sources all saying the same thing. The Commanders are going to do whatever it takes to have a true wide receiver 2 before we even get to the draft. Watch out. T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, do whatever you got to do. Trade for them, sign them in free agency, whatever it takes. And then 2, also, Jeremy Fowler said that improvements could be in order for the offensive line and maybe releasing right tackle Andrew Wiley, which will save the team $7.8 million worth of cap space, could be one of the options for us to create some cap space and go and get whoever we want in free agency to help, improve the offensive line. You got to replace Wiley, first of all, and then also to improve it beyond that. Well, first of all, shouts out to Bobby Gold, because I agree. He said releasing Wiley would be foolish. I agree. We're going to talk about that soon. And he also said, I suspect a wide receiver 2 addition in a near certainty. I agree too. I think that's pretty much like an automatic. That wide receiver 2 situation before the draft that'll be handled before April. Well before April. I'm really confident in that. But again, going back to the whole Andrew Wiley situation, first of all, you're crazy if you think the Eagles, even with the amount of cap space that they have, not much, way less than us, like less than half than what we have, but you'll be crazy to think that the Eagles still won't find a way to finesse the contracts and finagle it into a way that they still bring back some of their key free agents from their Super Bowl team that they just won with, like linebacker Zach Bond, who just had an all-pro year, who was getting paid pennies for the services that he did for them in 2024. They're going to find a way to bring them back. On top of the fact, you'll be crazy to think that they won't even have enough money, even after bringing back guys like Zach Bond, to still have some money left over to go sign outside free agents as well. Teams like the Eagles have found a way to do it year after year with a lot of contract finesses, void years, all that type of stuff. And if we have way more cap space than them, double. So why can't we? Why would we not be able to figure out a way if the Eagles do it and have been doing it for forever? And we have Brandon Sosna now in our front office, and if anybody could do it, it's him. Remember, the Lions gave him all of the credit for structuring their contracts the way that he did, to where stars are getting paid all of the money that they want, but it's not hitting their cap space for that much, and they're able to still go do whatever they got to do team building wise to go get outside free agents and everything like that. Brandon Sosna is the one that's been given credit for setting the Lions up for the future like that with all of the contracts and stuff. We have him in our building now, so we can definitely do it. And then on top of the whole Eagles situation and everything like that, even though I would personally prefer to keep Andrew Wiley and Jonathan Allen would also save you even more cap space than releasing Andrew Wiley. So instead of just having less than $8 million that you would get back and cutting Wiley, cutting Jonathan Allen would save you $16 million. And on top of that, this is arguably the deepest defensive tackle class in recent memory to replace Jonathan Allen, while this is not a deep offensive tackle class at all to replace Andrew Wiley. But back to my main point, I believe we should be able to keep all of them and still get whoever we want from other teams as well. But I feel like, if anything, if you're going to cut somebody to create cap space and so that you can go and get certain players that you want from other teams, Jonathan Allen is probably the guy that makes the most sense. You cut Andrew Wiley, not only do you have to worry about who's going to start a right tackle for you, but who's going to start a right guard for you until Samuel Cosme's healthy. So I don't really see the Andrew Wiley cut thing happening. Like I said, I feel like, if anything, you're more likely to cut Jonathan Allen, because it saves you even more than double the cap space it would if you cut Andrew Wiley. And this is the deepest defensive tackle class we've seen in a long time. You can get a true starter in the 3rd or 4th round. But again, in my personal opinion, I feel like we should keep everybody. I really do, because honestly, getting rid of Allen, even with as deep as this defensive tackle class is, would only create another hole on the roster that's already full of them. Remember, we overachieved this year. This is honestly Jaden Daniels carrying the team on his back. We have so many holes in this roster that we have to figure out this offseason. It's amazing what Jaden Daniels even did to get us to the NFC Championship. So why would you add another hole on top of the ones that we already have? And most importantly, I'm pretty sure with how this team is finally ready to contend for Super Bowls, and the fact that he's coming off of a down year, injury-ridden year, torn pec and everything like that, he's more than likely going to be willing to even potentially accept a contract extension / restructure that would make him way cheaper for us on a yearly basis anyway, and then that would free up some cap space for us, and you would still end up keeping him. So I just feel like, maybe you do that. You hope that, you get Jonathan Allen versus the Lions in that divisional round version of himself all season. And, that's best case scenario. But I feel like, honestly, if you approach Jonathan Allen and told him, hey, man, either you're going to have to restructure this contract or we're going to have to cut you, I'm pretty sure, especially with how great this team is and how bright our future is, I think he'd be willing to just go ahead and take that pay cut. Like, man, please let me stay a part of this experience. Please don't get rid of me, man. And then also, before we get up out of here, shouts out to NFL Rumors for pointing this out. The NFL Combine is 13 days away. The franchise tag deadline is 18 days away. So keep, watch for that as far as like the T. Higgins situation goes, along with a lot of other few players that I may dive into in another video separately, where we can look at all of the potential franchise tag, potential guys that we can look at, and who should we hope that don't get tagged, so we could probably try to get those guys in free agency. That's a separate video. Then free agency technically starts in 26 days, and then the draft starts in 69 days. We are so close, y'all. We are getting right there. I'm so excited. I have so much content to get to y'all. It's so many ideas, so little time. I can't wait. Also, NFL Rumors pointed out the fact that we will also see a lot of upcoming cap cuts that will be having some, ramifications as far as like how it affect free agency, because right now you're looking at, when you go look at the list of like top free agents that are available, that's not including guys that are going to end up getting cut. There are players right now that will end up getting cut, like Cooper Kupp. If the Rams aren't able to trade him, they will cut him. He will be a cap cut and a free agent, which again, you're looking at top free agents available at different positions, wide receiver, edge rusher, and things like that. That does not include guys like Cooper Kupp who are likely to get cut. So be on the lookout for that. Cap cuts will start hitting, and then we can start to add those names to the free agency pool that we could try to get a hold of as well. So that's going to be big time, because there's probably some big names out there that we all want that, right now we're kind of not even paying attention to them because they're still on contract with their current team. Their team cuts them. Now it's free game. Now we can add them to the priority list. So be on the lookout for that. Of course, I'm going to have y'all updated on those as well. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get a comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, stiff on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release informative and opinionated videos just like this. Really appreciate all of y'all. If you made it this far in the video, you are the GOAT. I salute you as well. And as a reward, again, the answer to the trivia question is actually linebacker Jamin Davis. Wow, that's interesting. And of course, definitely make sure you leave this video, you leave a like before you dip up out of here. And of course, let me know again in the comment section how you feel about the Jeremy Chin situation with Talanoa Hufanga. Do you believe Frankie Louvu and all of these different guys saying that a lot of players cannot wait to join the Commanders in free agency? All of these different sources, everybody, do you believe them? Also, let me know how you feel about the T. Higgins situation. Are you willing to pay him $33 million a year? Do you think that we are like the second most likely team, only behind the Denver Broncos, that's going to end up getting them if the Bengals let them walk? Do you think the Bengals will let them walk? Do you think they're not going to pay him? They're not going to franchise tag him? Let me know how you feel about re-signing Bobby Wagner. Again, Jeremy Chin versus Talanoa Hufanga. Let me know how you feel about everything we've discussed in this video, or any other predictions that you may have for this offseason about who we may re-sign, who we won't re-sign, all of that type of stuff. So be on the lookout for more content. I really appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all enjoy y'all Valentine's Day. Catch y'all later. Oh, and before we go, remember this video was sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And if you're looking for a new sportsbook, you already know it should be them. And please make sure, if you don't know anything else, if you don't do anything else, please make sure you gamble responsibly. Again, I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.